Welcome along. Westerley Cycling Club welcomes you to race 8 of our VR series. That's Westerley VR Races, virtual reality. Number 8, Battle of Little Britain, starts right outside an RAF airfield. And there's quite a few at the start, as you can see. This is a decent turnout. At least 50 starters on this occasion. Not all finished. I mean, there are 48 finishers, as we'll see later on. But over 50 starters here, and in real life we'd be outside the Polish War Memorial, commemorating the Polish airmen who fought with the British Air Force during the war. And look at that, we've got a flyover. You can see all the smoke above us as the aeroplanes, the aerial display team, which is not the people putting soap powder out on the supermarket shelves, but the aeroplanes up there, and nice to see some Westerly purple in the left-hand stream. Now, as you can see, as ever, it's a fast start. And if you don't get off to a fast start, you're in trouble already, because you need to be in this pack to have any chance. So at the start of one of these races, you really have to be pedalling hard as the countdown happens. And if you're pedalling hard enough and you're in a good position, you should get into the lead pack, which I've managed to do. Now, there's absolutely no chance of me staying in this to the end of the race. But what we have here is about 30 people who have made it into that pack. And this will give you a good launch pad, because you'll get through the first few kilometres, depending on what the terrain's like. You'll get through drafting in the pack, and you'll clock up a gap between those who are struggling in smaller groups behind. Now, inevitably, what happens is that you get to certain points of the course where people will attack, and this tends to be on the slopes, and it breaks the groups down. So there might be 30 now, but the group will sort of split down into a lower number as and when it goes up some hills, and each hill will probably shed it down and break it into smaller groups each time. So we're over a kilometre in, and as I say, we've got this group of about 30 riders, and most of the big names are in there, but not everybody. Not everybody. It's one of those things. If you miss this start, you are going to struggle. You won't pull it back. Very unlikely. So, what have we got in store? Well, my ambition is to stay in this pack as long as I can. You'll see there that there's some names written on the road. Unlike Tour de France, it's not all the big stars. I think they pick out names from the start list. So if you enter one of these, you will find your name painted across the course at some point. You know, you can feel like a star, even if, like me, you've got no chance of winning these things. I find that these are tremendous workouts because they're absolutely full on. As I say, the riders who are going to win this are way beyond my talent, but they stretch me, and I get a lot of, I suppose, what you might call, it's a training session almost for me, because it stretches me beyond my comfort zone, at least as long as I can stay in this group. So 2 kilometres in, not bad. I used to find that I could stay till about halfway in a race. I'm not doing quite as well as that now. You have to learn your techniques, and you have to watch for the splits. So if one of the main riders does attack and you're not keeping your eye on the ball, as it were, you will find yourself suddenly behind. And once there is a gap, it's very hard to make it up again. So the skill here is to not sit right at the back like I am right now. I'm in the purple jersey on the white lines in the centre of the road. Everybody know, oh, look, there is nobody behind us. There is nobody behind us. Well, I say nobody's behind us. There's nobody within view behind us. So this 30 are very, very clear of the 20 or so that didn't make it into the group at the start. So as I was saying, the aim is here to try and keep yourself in the middle of the bunch so that you get the energy saving. And you can tell, if you look up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see that I'm putting out 226 watts, 188 watts, whatever. And you'll see there's a little green bit underneath. The green bit's telling me when I'm saving power, and the red bit is telling me when I'm pedaling too hard. So if it's green down there, it means that actually, for the amount of power I'm putting out, I'm going much faster. If the numbers in the top left-hand corner go red, it's telling me that I'm actually working too hard for how much speed I'm doing. So RGT presents us with some very, very good data to monitor how we're doing, but you do need to master this skill of sitting in the pack without racing off on the front and not getting caught at the back when somebody does go off the front. And the larger the group, this is harder to monitor because you could get caught behind people who fail to do so themselves. So here we are, we're now over 3.5 kilometres into the route. I'm still in the leading pack, but we haven't had a significant hill yet. And this is the thing. Now, this course is largely fairly benign in terms of climbs, but there is one coming up. And this is, in real life, it's Honeycroft Hill in Uxbridge. And it's next to the old Uxbridge RAF camp, where the Battle of Britain bunker was, and the Royal Air Force coordinated the whole air battle from this bunker. Now, when we hit that hill, that's going to be a decisive point. If you can attack there, and if you don't attack, if you can hang on to those who do, you're in with a chance in this race. And I think this is where the first sort of break in the race may or may not occur. And towards the end of this race, it's not quite what I'd call a hill climb, but the last 4 or 5 kilometres are generally uphill. You're going up the side of a valley, albeit not at any great gradient at any time. So if you are tired towards the end, you're not going to have an easy time of it. But I think the stronger riders will cope with that almost as if it were flat. Now, I'm still pushing away, staying with the lead group and doing quite nicely out of it. Now, we're hitting speeds just under 50 kilometres an hour. This is fairly typical for these sorts of breaks. But as I say, you can do these sort of things when you're drafting. RGT does allow good drafting. You see there's plenty of green in the top left for me at the moment. So, yeah, if you can stay in this group, you can get a lot out of it. And we had a look behind earlier. We are way ahead of anybody behind us. Now, I know that there's 1 or 2 riders who are not in this group who ought to be. So we've got Thomas Alsop and Ian Negru for starters, who I would expect to see in this group and who both missed the cut. Now, this is interesting because if they can't make up the gap, and I don't think they can, what do? And this is, I think, where RGT racing can be quite interesting. Now, we're hitting 5 kilometres and we're on a hill. If you look in the top right-hand corner, you see the gradient just went up to 3%. It's down to 1.4 now. But this is Honeycroft Hill, and that split the pack. I couldn't hold on, and I'm toast. You can see the pack is drifting away, and I haven't got enough to make up that gap. So I was on my own for a few kilometres. We're now 4.5 kilometres on, and somebody else who must have been dropped from the pack, Herr Fleur, from Germany, or Deutschland. Now I've caught up with him, and he very sensibly sits on my wheel because he's probably had a hard time on his own, nobody to draft, and I've just turned up and he can draft. And guess what? It's in the group. Now, Ian is a much stronger rider than me. He's a club mate, and that's why we've both got purple jerseys on, because we're both members of Westerley Cycling Club, and purple is the club colour. Now, Ian's very sensibly caught up with me, and he's going to take a break because he's worked hard to do this. And he's going to sit on my wheel for a little while, get a little bit of energy back, get his breath back, and sooner or later he will attack me. As I say, Herr Fleur from Germany is sensibly doing the same. Now, Ian's probably dragged him back up to me because I'd left him. Now, I've put in a little bit of a spurt there, just testing to see how fit Ian is. Will he follow me or won't he? I think he will, but, it depends. I mean, no, he's got it. He's got the energy to counter that, and I suspect very soon will attack me in reverse. There we go. Look, straight away. No surprise there. So it's now my task to try and catch up with Ian. If I can get on Ian's wheel and save a lot of energy over the next 4 or 5 kilometres, I could get home. Now, I'm currently sitting, you can see on the left-hand column, I'm 31st in this, Ian is 30th. Now, there is a gap up to the next rider in 29th. And we've got Herr Fleur at 32nd. And you can see that just behind that, we've got Thomas Alsop, who's 100, 200 kilometres behind. Now, Thomas is a much, much stronger rider than I am. I've never beaten him in one of these races. I've never even been close. So anything I can get from sitting on Ian's wheel and distancing Thomas will give me a fighting chance of holding on to something like 31st out of 50 riders. Now, at the moment, Ian hasn't quite been able to break me, and I'm holding on. I suspect there'll be another attack coming soon. Ian does like to attack on any little bit of slope as well. We're on, 0.5% at the moment. So it's probably not... Oh, no, he's gone. He's gone. And that's it. Went up to 0.7%, and Ian's tried it on the slope, and I haven't responded. And that's that for me. So, at 11.5 kilometres into the race, now I've got a fair old gap back to the others, and I see Thomas Allsop and Fleur are still, there. I've got quite a decent distance on both of those, and if I can be strong enough over the next 4 kilometres to the end, then maybe I've got a chance. So here we are, 13 kilometres in, just cutting through. And you can see the painting on the road again for some of the contestants, the entries. But there he is, Thomas Allsop, going past me like I'm almost not there. And the big problem I've got now is that there's another bunch catching up too. I haven't been strong enough on my own. I've had to ride solo. I need to be in a group to have any chance of doing anything now. I'm in a little bit of trouble. You can see I'm down to 26.1 kilometres per hour on a slope. And look, I've just lost another 4 places, 5 places, and you can see that really, really sensibly Fleur has got into that group and used it. Now, I dropped Fleur, but he's used the group to now go past me, and I haven't got anything like enough energy there to catch up. So he's played a much better tactic than me. He's let me go, but sat on and waited for a group and used that group to get back. So that was that. It was a solo ride home for me. We get towards the end of the race. This is going up to, in real life, Pinewood Studios, where they make all the James Bond movies. There's a couple of bends before the end. They won't really affect me because I'm not in any sprint. And here we are, crossing the finishing line in 37th, which is probably disappointing. Tactically, I didn't play that quite right. But there we are. And confirmation on the left there that I was 37th, looking at the leaders, the top 9. And there is a tradition in Westerley CC that we do wait for the last rider home. You don't have to do that if you enter the event. It's just something we do on our domestic versions of this. And fair play to the Bunyan brothers. They were riding their first ever race, and they stuck it out to the end, and there they are.